Hello guys, and this is Scott here, and today we're going to do another historic video, and this time it's of the infamously cold December of 2010. Now, I'm sure a lot of people remember it because it is a fairly recent weather event, and as I say, it was extremely cold. The cold started in the end of November and went on into the start of January. And just to mention as well, some of the facts and figures you hear in this video actually come from Trevor Harley's personal weather website, which I will leave in the description. It's an excellent resource. I couldn't do these videos without it, as it has some amazing data. It goes right back to the Middle Ages, so be sure to check that out. Anyway, we're going to start on the 1st of November 2010, because actually what happens through November is really quite important, as it has quite a lot of subtle changes in it that really sets up what happens in December. So we start on the 1st of November 2010, and we've got the Azores High ridging up into the country. In fact, it's a pretty typical autumn pattern there. We've got low pressure out in the Atlantic as well. So as we move through the first and into the second, that low pressure moves in, and actually we get some very mild weather during this first part of November. As we go through into the third and the fourth, you can see we get some very warm westerly winds. In fact, we get 19 degrees in St James's Park. I should also mention as well that the CET for November 2010 is 5.2. which is slightly below average, and the reason why that is because it had a colder than average end, which offset the milder start. So obviously we're in the milder start now, and as we go through the 5th and into the 6th, you can see the Azores High actually sort of moves out into the Atlantic, and that's the first sign that it's starting to change. As you can see, through the 7th and into the 8th, we bring a deep storm in, but look how far the jet stream is to the south, which is indicated by that black line. Normally we'd expect it to be running through the country, but actually it's not. It's running far to the south. So on the 8th we have that deep storm moving over the country, and because of where the jet stream's running, instead of it running past the north of Scotland, it actually runs into continental Europe through the 9th and into the 10th. Again, this is just signs that it is changing. Then on the 11th we bring another deep storm in, a 960 millibar one, and that one again does a similar thing. Again, just signs that the setup isn't quite right. Then we remain relatively unsettled actually through that middle part of November, through the 14th into the 15th. But then I want you to keep an eye on that area of high pressure that's around Spain on the 16th, because actually this does something quite interesting. As we go through the 16th and into the 17th, you can see it jumps up to Scandinavia, and that again is another sign that it's going to be very different. So we have a southerly flow there, but as we go into the 18th, you can see that Scandinavian high starts to build, and through the 19th it actually then moves to the north of the UK and merges with the Greenland high. So that starts to shove the jet stream further and further south. So as we go through the 20th, that low pressure system is pushed further south. Again, these are just signs that it is getting colder. Then on the 21st you can see we finally open the door to that easterly wind, so it starts to get colder. So already we're starting to get the first snow showers now along the northeastern coastlines, and the temperatures are really falling. By the 22nd, look, the high pressure is well in control now over Greenland, and look at that low that's moving into continental Europe. It's really letting those easterly winds in. Then on the 23rd, the wind actually shifts around more into a northeasterly, so it gets even colder. And it's actually quite interesting through this part, because on a lot of the northeastern coastlines, there was actually reports of thunder snow. during this period, and thunder snow is very, very rare in the UK. And if you don't know what it is, it's a typical thunderstorm, but instead of rain falling as the primary precipitation, it's snow instead. So yeah, through this late part of November, the 23rd and the 24th, we get quite a lot of thunder snow in the northeast, and we really build up some snow amounts. By the 25th, again, look at those winds coming in from the northeast. And by the 26th, they go into a more of a northerly wind, and then it gets even colder. As you can see, the Greenland high by now is really starting to build. Look, 1,055 millibars. Then on the 27th, we start to see some of the coldest temperatures of November 2010. In fact, overnight 27th and into the 28th, we actually record minus 18 degrees in Wales. And that's one of the lowest November temperatures that have ever been recorded in Wales. But as you can see, by the 28th, look at that dark pool of blue that's over the country, just indicating how cold it's really turning. And then by the 29th, those snow showers that are along the northeastern coast, they start to penetrate further inland. So actually on this day I get my first snow shower here in Manchester. But it's not until the next day, on the 30th, that we get quite a widespread snowfall. In fact, I believe Manchester got I think it was a good couple of inches this day. But along the northeast coastline, where they've had a lot of these snow showers, those areas are up to over a foot of snow now, because don't forget they've had it for over a week. And that's how we finish autumn. Look at that, with a bitter easterly wind right across the UK. And then we move into December, and December is the infamous month, the infamously cold month. And look at that, easterly winds all the way across the North Atlantic. The North Atlantic oscillation is negative, through the floor negative, in fact. That's probably one of the most block patterns we can ever get in December. And December 2010 comes out with a CET of minus 0.7, and that makes it the second coldest December for the CET, and that record goes to December 1890, which had a CET of minus 0.8. So in terms of central England temperature, this is as cold as Decembers get. You know, you don't really get Decembers that are colder than this. And actually, it was a brilliant month, But yeah, there we are on the 1st of December with those easterly winds screaming right in. And actually, this day brought one of the heaviest snowfalls that I can remember. Back at this time, I was still in high school at this time, and I remember being in IT class, and this snow shower blew over. Again, there was thunder in it, so it was thunder snow, and it absolutely hammered down snow. I absolutely hammered it down to the point where you looked out the window and you thought it was fog, but it wasn't. It was snow, and it was only snowing for about 10 minutes, but in the space of 10 minutes, a foot of snow was added to the existing snow outside. It was an unbelievable snowfall, and one that I don't think I've seen before or since, and probably I don't think I'll see for quite a while from now on either. But yeah, as we go into the 2nd of December, that high pressure just stays there, and we keep those bitter easterly winds screaming in across the country. And we have those cold pools right on top of us. And this first week of December 2010 was exceptionally cold. As we go through into the 3rd, it stays there. In fact, it becomes a bit more slack actually. This middle part of December, these next few days were really quite slack. It was quite a sunny period, and in fact actually December 2010 is the 3rd sunniest December on record, and that's just because of how blocked it was. So it comes much more slack on the 3rd and the 4th, and by the time we get to the 5th, we have low pressure to the northeast, and that swings those winds back round into the north. So again, we get another cold plunge. By the 6th, that northerly keeps on going into the 7th and the 8th. But then by the time we get to the 9th, we start to get a bit more of a milder interlude. We get this high pressure system in the Atlantic. It topples into the UK and it brings a much milder northwesterly in, which compared to some of the winds we've had recently, it's very welcome. And actually it was quite necessary as well, this spell, actually, because later on in December we get another extremely cold push, and some places have been locked in the freezer for a couple of weeks now, so it was necessary. But even still, it's not much milder, because as we get into the 10th, we sort of set up a UK high, really, and that goes on into the 11th. And what we see is quite a lot of fog in this spell. Quite a lot of fog, and daytime temperatures are sort of around 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees. So it's a very, very slight thaw, but nonetheless it is a thaw. As we go through into the 12th, that high just sits on top of us, really, and it stays cold, sunny and foggy. Then by the time we get to the 13th and the 14th, there are signs now that it is starting to change. Because notice that high, it's more inevitable on the 15th actually, but notice that high starting to retrogress up towards Greenland. Now basically retrogression is the opposite of the zonal flow. Now what we'd normally see is low pressure systems and high pressure systems will move across the Atlantic from the west to the east, and that's driven by the jet stream, and that's the typical zonal flow. Now retrogression is when we get the opposite of that, so we see mainly high pressure systems going from east to west, and that's what happens to the 16th. You can see, look at that huge high pressure system builds up into Greenland, and actually it drags a lot of warm air into Greenland, and this is called warm air evection. And what it helps to do is like pump up that Greenland high. Look at that, 1075 millibars in Greenland. That is an exceptional high. But actually what I'm about to show you here is one of the most extreme spells of weather we can get in the UK in winter. If you look there on the 16th, we have a very cold, a very deep area of low pressure to the north and a very severe cold pool. Now that is the polar vortex, and that's getting ready to strike us. And on the 17th it sends those northerly winds screaming in right across the country, and so that mild air is completely pushed away. And look how far the jet stream goes. It's by this point it's in southern Europe and North Africa, so it's exceptionally far south, and the high pressure over Greenland is extremely strong. It's an exceptionally cold spell of weather. And actually this night we record minus 21 degrees in Altnahara, and that's exceptionally cold. You know, the 17th and the 18th that's recorded. And then on the 18th we then get this very slack low over the country that develops, that allows some heavy snow to form across the country. And on this day actually Edenfell doesn't get above minus 11.3 degrees. Again, exceptionally cold, which when you consider it's December, which is often the mildest of the 3 winter months and usually the most Atlantic dominated month, is really very exceptional. But nonetheless it's there in the 18th, and actually we get quite a heavy snowfall this day. And then that goes through in overnight into the 19th. And then as we get into the 20th, the winds then shift back round into the east. So then we get another very cold easterly. But again, look at all that northern blocking. We've got heights stretching all the way from Canada through Greenland up past Svalbard and then into western Russia. So it's an extremely blocked pattern. And that's just allowing those easterly winds to scream into the UK and all the way across the Atlantic. And that carries on really into the 21st, which is the Winter Solstice. And actually this day was very memorable actually, because there was a lunar eclipse during the early hours of the day, just as the sun was rising. And often with very cold air you get clear skies, which is again another reason why it was the third sunniest December on record. And I remember early in the morning the moon was glowing like sort of red and orange as it does during a lunar eclipse, but it was causing all the snow on the ground to sort of glow orange with it as well. It's a sight I've never seen again before or since, and it's very, very memorable. I don't have a photo and I wish I did, but it was really quite breathtaking. And as we head into the run up to Christmas, then we move into the 22nd of December, and again that easterly just keeps on going really. In fact, we have we just record some very cold temperatures. But notice as we get to the 23rd, we have this low pressure system over France, and for a time it actually looked like this was going to deliver again another bout of very heavy snow, but it doesn't, because it's a bit too far south, which again, as you can see by how far the jet stream's running, again indicated by the black line, it's not surprising why this month was exceptional as it was, because the jet stream's just so far south. And then we go into Christmas Eve, and again we keep that northeasterly flow. And then Christmas Day itself, we have high pressure over the country, and I remember this was a breathtaking Christmas. It was extremely cold. I don't think my area in Manchester actually got above about -4 that day, but it had some stunning blue skies and like a foot of snow outside. It was unbelievable. Again, it's just what you'd see on a Christmas postcard that actually happened that year, and it was unbelievable, unbelievably beautiful, but again very, very damaging, as a lot of people were killed in this spell. And again, as we go into the 26th, into 26th Boxing Day, that high pressure stays there, but as you can see now, there are signs that the cold is breaking now, because that high is starting to slip southwards, and at the same time we have this deep low developing in the Atlantic, and that starts to shift the winds back round into the south. And as we get through into the 27th, that milder air starts to push in. And actually the 27th, 28th, this sort of late period in December, was actually, it was very dull and murky, to be honest. It wasn't particularly mild just because the ground was frozen solid, but it was quite dull and murky and still had some cold nights because of the light snow. In fact, actually some places in Scotland and Northern England had lying snow for the entire month, even during those brief milder spells that happened earlier on in the month and then right at the end. It still wasn't enough to melt the snow. Then as we go into the 29th, we keep that southerly flow, and this now, we're starting to see the thaw taking hold now. Into the 30th we develop this high pressure, so then we go back to sort of the cold anticyclonic, so we're daytime temperatures are maybe 2 or 3 degrees above zero, and it's sunny again, so again the mild weather doesn't come back properly. Then as we go into New Year's Eve, that high's just sat back on top of us really. And that's where we finish December 2010, the unbelievable month. And then we move into January 2011. This month has a CET of 3.7 degrees, which is cooler than average. But it's not much cooler than average, because throughout most of January there were signs that it was going to turn colder, but it was sort of a failed month. And I'm going to show you why that happens. So as you can see here on the 1st, we almost have a bit of a northerly spell here with the high pressure trying to get up to Greenland again. So we get a bit of another cold snap during the 1st of January. But it doesn't really last long, because as we go through into the second, the high pressure's sort of forced away from Greenland and it collapses back over the UK through the second, third and fourth. And then we sort of revert more to a northwesterly wind from low pressure to the north. Now this actually brought some heavy snow in Manchester, but it wasn't really anything too severe because the air by this point is a lot milder than it was in December, so it was sort of one of those spells where it starts off as snow and then turns more to sleet as the afternoon goes on. But again, it does try to shift round into the north, because as we get through the 5th into the 6th, the winds do go back into the north, so we get another cold push. And it did actually look like during early January 2011 that we were going to get another very severe cold spell, and that the cold of December was going to carry on. But it doesn't happen, because as we go through into the 7th, again those winds shift round into the west. As you can see, by the 8th we're starting to build the Azores high back in over Spain, and that's really what messes it up. See, as we get to the 9th, you can see we've got all that northern blocking still there, but the Azores high that's going through into Spain sort of prevents the low pressure from collapsing to the south again. So it's sort of keeping the low pressure up near Britain. So it's that it causes a sort of failed month. It was a cool month, that's why the CET is lower, but it's much milder than it could have been. Because as we go through the 10th, 11th and 12th, we're in a straight southwesterly there, and the winds are running straight through the country. And that's as far as I'm going to go on the charts, but in fact, the rest of the winter was actually quite nondescript. January 11 was anticyclonic, well, fairly anticyclonic, but it was much milder towards the end of it. It wasn't as cold. It didn't get the cold anticyclonic that December got. It was more mild anticyclonic. And then February 2011 was actually exceptionally mild. In fact, it was the 9th mildest on record, with a CET of 6.4. And that's because we just got a complete dominance of southwesterly wind, and in fact it was almost a completely snowless February, which when you look at December is quite a big contrast. And February 11 was also very dull. And in fact, the mildness of February 11 is almost predicted to have started up what occurred in spring. And in fact, spring 2011 was the warmest on record. And in fact, the spring of 2011 was almost as exceptional for warmth as December 2010 was exceptional for cold. So it was a very, very remarkable spell of weather. And yeah, I think that's pretty much the end of it now. So again, thanks guys for watching this historic video, and if you've got any suggestions of any months and seasons that you'd like me to look at, I'm happy to do that. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.